there doesn't seem to be a day that goes by without me going past some sort of post on Instagram that has one of these autist steak and egg cutting board with avocado TikTok videos where you just like take a slice of the steak, you dip it. Usually it's like shittily cooked, unrendered fat cap. You dip it in the egg yolk, which is mostly raw, and then you eat that, and then you pretend to be a very nice, very big penis man. Now, this left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, I'm gonna be honest. And the biggest problem with it is that it polarizes people into two camps of autists. Number one, they follow it to a T. They have not much originality or individuality. They think, oh wow, okay, this is cool. This will make me a big caveman. I'm gonna go bench press 185 finally. And so they recreate that. They just spam kind of waste steaks because they don't know how to cook. They buy very expensive cuts, and then they make like 6 eggs at a time because and these people usually tend to come from like pretty wealthy fucking backgrounds, so like the cost isn't an issue for them, which is really annoying because yeah, there's it's a very big struggle when you have to like save money on cuts of steak and like you have to worry about the egg prices, whatever. So that's the first camp. The second camp is the people who are like the contrarians here, and they're like, oh no, saturated fat, you're gonna die, you need a bunch of vegetables. Basically it's like closer aligned to like the vegan response of this, or like the Vosh but like leftist YouTube in fucking middle of quarantine response to this, where they're gonna say, oh no, this is very unhealthy for you, or like they're gonna complain about like, oh, steak and eggs is such a bad combo, it's not good for your health, it's not good for the environment, whatever else. So these two camps, both of them I think have severely lacking things in their arguments or in the way they approach this, and both of them try to, but in my opinion fail to answer the question, is steak overrated? I'm gonna go ahead and say it, rip the band-aid off really quickly. It is absolutely not. This is the popularity of steak kind of comes and goes with on a macro and micro scale actually. And if you just go look consistently, it's consistently remained popular, but on the little individual levels, if you zoom in, there was a time, like if you look at movies depicting, I don't know how accurate these are, but you know, you would assume that it's somewhat accurate and that they're not lying on purpose. Like you see movies from 1940s, things like that, either around the world wars, and the very high-end, sophisticated, nice-looking fucking tuxedo people who like paid their sons out of the draft or whatever, they're having steak. It's clearly a very high-end thing. They're having fillets, more leaner cuts, because they think that's how, because there are less fillets per less weight of a fillet per cow than let's say a ribeye, which is like the most popular steak in the world right now, and it's a very exclusive cut. In the past, you see these people eating these types of these cuts, right? And it's very coveted, very sought after, but it's not something that like the common man eats, which is the one thing I disagree with the people who really push the steak and egg giga saturated fat whatever diet, is saying that, oh yeah, your grandpa, your great grandpa had like this for every meal. Absolutely not. Unless you're like aristocracy or something, you probably your grandparents probably had a lot more like vegetables and basically whatever was cheapest to grow, right? If they were farmers or just like whatever grains, whatever the fuck, which may not be the healthiest. That's not what I'm arguing. What I am arguing, however, is that people back in the day did not have steak and eggs for every meal just because it wasn't fucking feasible unless they were cow farmers, whatever else, or like a certain higher echelons where they could afford that in cities, industrialized areas. But the average person's experience did not reflect that whatsoever. So they've come here, right, around World War II era, and then as we go past into the Cold War, a bunch of fucking memes start coming out about how you should start having like spam and like processed turkey or something instead of like eggs and steak and pork and whatever else. Saturated fat's bad for you. And as the low fats trend starts coming in, steaks kind of wean in popularity. Now, recently, and by recently I mean like 10ish years ago, or 8, on YouTube, steaks have a massive resurgence in popularity due to people like Gordon Ramsay, Guga Foods, who else? Binging with Babish, and a bunch of media at that time. It's like 2010s, early to, actually not even early. basically the entirety of the 2010s, yeah, saw a revival of the steak with these cooking YouTubers who would show you how to make them. The butter basting method was made very popular. Oh yeah, butter, garlic, and thyme. Grilling at this point wasn't that much that popular. It was more frowned upon, and grilling would become more popular later on with, oh, how to barbecue right. Malcolm Reed, that guy, jolly ass man, who gets like a fucking $400 tomahawk, just like slaps it on the grill. It looks absolutely banger. People like that, people like Guga Foods, who is the goat of steaks, they really make grilling popular, bring that back after all the pan searing, butter basting thing people like people get tired of. And then around 2018, I would say, to like 2019, 2020, and even sporadically before that, people get a little bit tired of steaks. People start to be like, okay, sure, you can do this, because what you have to understand is it was so popular, and it's like the number one status symbol in food is to have all these steaks, and Wagyu at this point was niche. Wagyu was very niche actually at this point. So you have these people, and then the people want to go against the grain here, no pun intended, go like, okay, sure, steaks are fun, steaks are whatever, but it's all we ever see, let's make other things. And so here's when a lot of attention starts being paid to other meats, to other side dishes, to fish, things of that nature, because people wanted to like artificially kind of devalue steak. So because they were like, okay, we've been only looking in this one area for a bit, let's look here, surely there's something to find here. So in that time, the steak kind of weaned in popularity, and then for some reason it exploded right around the same time as the gym did, and Wagyu started becoming a lot more mainstream. Actually, a little bit before that, the big fucking steak explosion of like 2023, 24, now 25. It followed that, and now it seems everyone and their mother seems to know how to, or at least seems to have watched a video about, knowing is a different thing, about how to butter baste steak, how to season it well, how to dry age, whatever else. How much of this information they retain, it's fucking questionable, but the fact still stands that steaks are massively popular right now, which takes us to today, if you follow throughout this entire history lesson, to the steak and eye cutting board TikTok trends. Because, yeah, it's basically mostly Hamza, that Hamza and not First Man. First Man doesn't really advocate for carnivore stuff as much, but the self-improvement YouTubers, as they've exploded in popularity, a big part of that is diet, and a big part of the diet advice is to go more carnivore, to go more keto, to eat a bunch more meat so you get more protein, get more micronutrients. This is Megan from Team 3D Alpha also made this very popular, the egg yolks, and then I guess someone just like based off of their advice just made some TikToks, made some fucking funny memes, or at least I'm pretty sure the progenitors were being serious about the steak and egg cutting board thing. But that took off, blew up in popularity, because like little shitters with fucking fake perms and who go to Crumble every day started being like, oh, okay, well, I have Raising Cane's and I have fucking Crumble. Why do I feel like shit? Oh, look, steak, egg. That looks very healthy. Let me make that. And then they sold one of their parents' Teslas to buy a fucking ribeye at Ralph's or something. And now that makes up all of their diet. And the people who find these viewpoints and these people annoying otherwise have now grabbed onto this steak and egg thing and are now like, oh, okay, this is just another one, and they're fucking ludicrous ramblings. This will pass. No. What the fuck? This one? Well, that was a nice noise. Some small dog got into a confrontation outside, clearly. But steak has always been there in popularity, right? And when you have to answer the question of is it overrated or not, you have to think about the price, you have to think about the flavor and the nutrition. So the price is the first thing we're going to be going over here. Flavor is pretty much for another video. But we're going to be going over the price here, over the cuts, how not to get scammed very shortly. So, supermarkets, they've caught on to this trend, obviously, because steak prices have fucking skyrocketed, exploded. A USDA choice New York strip or ribeye now go for like $17 a pound or even $20, whereas before that was even expensive for the prime steaks. The choice New York strips would be like fucking $8.99 a pound, $9.99 a pound for ribeyes. I remember that was pretty much the layout. But now, somehow the 2020 to 2021 won that entire thing where we were all, shut inside. That thing happened, and somehow that gave these fucking companies an excuse to artificially fucking raise the price of the steaks, which is very not nice. Obviously, the real reason is they see a huge profit incentive. More people are buying steaks now than ever because it's becoming more popular on social media than ever. And social media affects the real world a lot more than people give it credit for. Now, how can you circumvent this? Because what I just said, are we just fucked? Should we just give up, move to Southeast Asia, rope max, because the steak prices are high? No, not at all. There are a few things. The grocery stores by this point have caught on to some of the cuts that used to be cheap. They've definitely cut on to the big three, which is New York strip ribeye and filet mignon or tenderloin. And they've cut on to those. They've increased the prices like fucking insane. Good luck trying to buy a filet for anything under $30 a pound these days. You probably can't. Unless you go to some like really shitty, dubious, questionable quality store, which I wouldn't recommend either. Now, they've also cut on to a few of the lesser known cuts, or cuts that were lesser known before. Like, just a couple of people knew about them, very niche online things, or the secrets stay within the family. And now they've raised those prices almost as much, if not higher, than the big three cuts, which is fucking ridiculous to me. So these cuts that you should avoid for now are skirt steak. This used to be the biggest like budget hack ever. But people, I guess whoever, big beef, big fucking steak, large conglomerates caught onto the fact that it was a cheap and tasty cut, and it had big grain, so it was very easy to slice it to be tender. It responded to marinades very well, and so they took that, they upped the price like fucking crazy. And also the quality of the skirt steaks, I don't know if it's just always been low, but they sell it usually vacuum sealed, whereas other cuts they can sell just at the butcher counter or whatever else. Skirt steaks are not the way to go. If you're overwhelmed by all the culinary and nutrition advice you see online, but are simultaneously fascinated by how good the food you see on like Shorts, TikTok, Instagram looks, then it's time to check out Common Sense Cooking. First-time purchases not only get 50% off, a little bit more than that actually, but also get to hop on a one-to-one call with me where we discuss a culinary topic of your choosing. In addition, these same first 10 get to request an additional module that gets added to the stack of the original course. Check out the link in the description now. Don't delay, act now. Thank you very much for your patience. Now let's get back to the actual video. Flank steaks are even worse because they're around the same price. They're just fucking shittier, right? They're a leaner skirt steak. The grains aren't as loose. They're very tightly bound together. And it's like, flank steak is the type of thing where basically if you got a surplus of them for free, you would take them and you would be like, oh yeah, cool, we can feed a bunch of people with this. But with the prices that these stores are charging now, definitely don't buy flank steak. A local butcher shop is your best bet still if you have that, but unfortunately, since most of us live in cities, we're gonna have to be forced to resort to supermarkets or Costco. Fuck me, even Costco has fallen. I remember Costco was like a big 5-pack or whatever for like $39 or something, and that used to be very expensive at the time. And so my family was like, okay, fuck no, we'll just buy like the individual steaks, or maybe we bought 1 or 2 of those packs from Costco and then just like froze them. That was a very long time ago. Now the prices are pretty ridiculous on these well-known cuts. Another one is flap meat or carne asada, because I live in California. There's a little bit of Hispanic influence in the cuisine of California. Sorry to burst your bubble there if you didn't know that, but that is the case. And one of their favorite cuts for their carne asada. Is that a funny voice? That's a funny voice. I'm gonna keep that in and not cut it out. Authenticity. Is the flat meat. One of their favorite cuts for that is the flat meat. And so, since, that used to be like dirt cheap. That used to be like $7.99 a pound. And now it's gone up like something ridiculous. I think it's genuinely just doubled. Like shamelessly, they just doubled the price. So, I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure how some people are affording that, because it continues to be very popular and a very, like, the universal cut for Mexican food. Now, so skirt, flap, and flank steak. Yeah, those are what you should avoid because they've been fucking... The good thing about them was their value before, and now their value is really shitty. And so the flavors, you're better off just buying one of the big three. New York strip, ribeye, and filet. You want to look for deals on those because these are, I'm pretty sure those are some of the best cuts of steak. And if you can find a relatively decent deal, they are worth their price, at least more than the other three I discussed before. But they're still not, if you're constrained by money, don't go for them, right? Don't go for them. You can find a couple of steaks that I will go over now, which have equal or better flavor, equal or better tenderness, and are way cheaper. So the first thing I'd like to say is maybe going online is your best bet. The two shops I have in mind right now are the Butcher Shop. Porter Road and Crowd Cow. Crowd Cow used to be wonderful. I don't know how they are anymore. I haven't ordered them from them for a while. And Porter Road, they've been pretty consistent, although the prices have obviously gone up to like reflect the market. So the cuts that I'm gonna advocate for here, right on, cuts that haven't caught on yet, are hanger steak, because it's relatively hard to find, right? There's only one or two hanger steaks per cow. I think, yeah, like a kilo or even less than a kilo of hanger steak per cow, so it's pretty rare, but for some reason it's also very cheap. There's also picanha, which is, I don't know how, because it's been made so popular by Guga Foods, but somehow the price hasn't caught on, right? So picanha, as long as you don't get it from restaurant, because restaurants do tend to overcharge for it a lot, because they take advantage of the hype. If you go to a grocery store or a butcher shop, it should still be pretty cheap. Now, the one thing will have you watch out for is, so if you're in LA, you probably know, and you know about cooking, you probably know Standing's Butcher Shop. If you look up butcher shop in LA, since there's no fucking culture here whatsoever, there's like only one main big one that pops up on Google Maps, and it's Standings. And it's supposed to be like, oh shit, everything's grass-fed, dry-aged, the cows are treated with the utmost dignity and respect. And so that was all lovely. Went there a few years ago, got a just singular strip of picanha, half pound, and it was like $15-$20. I think it was like $20 for a half pound. Holy fuck. Maybe a little bit less. I don't want to say any bullshit. But so I cooked that, and it turns out it was from like the third vein onwards. So if you know anything about the shape of the picanha, it's kind of like a triangle, right? And it goes from thinnest to longest. Now the longest edge, this is called the, oh, maybe churrasco, something like that. I don't want to say bullshit. Any Brazilians watching right now, you'll know that the last end of the picanha is what you like fucking give to your dogs, because it's really tough. It's super tough. There's a bunch of like veins running through it. It's just not very good for you. So that's the one I ended up getting. So just be very careful that if you get the whole picanha, make sure to get the whole thing and not just individual strips, because if you're buying individual strips and slices, you're likely to end up getting scammed like I did. Now, that's very cheap. Hanger steak is very cheap. And there's also chuck steaks. And somewhat tri-tip. The thing with tri-tip is somewhat, it's like a gamble. Tri-tip can either be very flavorful or not flavorful whatsoever. So actually I would recommend, if you see something super well marbled, like it looks like a Wagyu short rib that like Wolfgang Puck would cook for the Oscars, and it's a tri-tip and it's a reasonable price, try it out, right? Try cooking it mid-rare, see how that is. But other than that, I would probably stay away from it if it's just like an average looking tri-tip. Your surefire bets are picanha hanger. Those are my two favorites. There's also the sirloin, right? Top sirloin, which gets super memed on for whatever reason, even in restaurant. That's the one steak that is even cheap in steakhouses, which is insane to me, because if you know anything about steakhouses, they're pretty much like a money laundering scheme. They're such a fucking scam. But and I'll go into that because there's gonna be no advice on the cooking or the preparation in this video, just for the choosing. I'm gonna go over that in a later video on why steakhouses are a fucking scam. But even in those steakhouses that usually tend to scam you, the sirloin tends to be super cheap for whatever reason. And top sirloins are very good steaks. They have a good balance of flavor and tenderness. They have a very beefy flavor. They're not that expensive, man. They're not that expensive, and they're nicely shaped, so you don't have to worry about like odd gray bands when you're browning them. So that's super nice. The last thing is chuck steaks are actually pretty good. Chuck steaks are really good if you're on a budget, because everyone's assuming that you're gonna be making like a pot roast or like stews out of them, and so for those thicker pieces are usually recommended. And so when a store sells like a thin chuck steak, they're gonna make it super cheap because they're like, oh yeah, what else is gonna be used for? What else is this gonna be used for other than like stews or fucking soups or like not short ribs, but like, dishes that take longer to bake, where it's like you're pretty much making it well done and it like falls off the bone, or if there's no bone, it just falls apart, right? So the thinner cuts usually aren't the best for that, but what you can do with them is just make them like regular steaks. And the chuck and the ribeye actually connect, right? They're part of the same, I don't want to say they're a part of the same muscle, but they're a part of the same section of the cow. Like if you got a whole thing, right, on one end would be the chuck, on the other end would be the ribeye. So it's not like some fodder, like really bad, shitty cut that you're getting there. It's basic, it's essentially a ribeye, or an almost ribeye. So chucks are very good, and you have to, yeah, you should treat them with similar respect that you would give a ribeye. Now, since they're like a ribeye, hint hint, my advice is also to cook ribeyes a little bit more than you would cook leaner cuts. But the chuck steak, especially, I would go medium because there's a bunch of fat and connective tissue there. I wouldn't eat it too rare. For picanha, I would go medium rare. It's a pretty safe bet. The biggest thing, you can have it at a variety of doneses, but the biggest thing is just to make sure that the fat cap is rendered. For hanger steak, I would go super rare. I would go pretty much as rare as you can tolerate, while it's still being like warm in the center. Because hanger steaks are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. They're like fillets in that they cook really well. They're super fucking juicy. You can get a nice color on them. I just skimmed past the word juicy, but that is what they are. I just don't like saying it. They have a lot of moisture somehow. And the flavor is really nice. The flavor is unmatched. This is what, for some reason, not many... I don't think supermarkets can capitalize off of it because it's so impractical to like harvest the hanger steak and like package it up because there's so few per cow. But if hanger steaks were being sold in grocery stores, I'm sure they would be on the expensive side. So while the places haven't caught on yet, get your hanger steaks, cook them rare. Get your picanha, cook them medium rare. Top sirloin basically treat like a New York strip. And your tri-tips, experiment, right? Tri-tips I would go on the rare side as well with cooking. Now, is that all? Oh yeah, and chuck's obviously a little bit more well done, more on the medium side. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to the nutritional power scale. The nutritional power scale for steaks is it's not even close to many other foods. If you thought the video I made where it's like egg yolks neg your verse, egg yolks solo your favorite character, whoever else, because of their nutrient density, steaks are very much like that as well. They have a bunch of zinc, whole lot of protein, whole lot of saturated fat, which is necessary for your testosterone, for your hormone levels, because the whole thing where cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. A steak, obviously, because of its saturated fat content, will have a bunch of cholesterol. Now, what else? There's a bunch of minerals, iron, I'm sure. There's creatine in raw steak. I'm pretty sure the creatine cooks out of it once you cook it, but I'm not 100% on that, so you should still supplement with creatine. But the main thing is just the zinc. The zinc and all other minerals and testosterone boosting benefits, like vitamin B. I'm pretty sure the B12 vitamins steaks are also loaded in. Opt for the, if you really do want to maximize the nutrients, I would probably not go for a top sirloin because that tends to be leaner. Hanger, I'm sure, has a bunch of nutrients. Chuck, I'm sure, has a bunch of nutrients because whatever's fat soluble, those cuts have more fat. And so I imagine that's going to be better for that reason. Now, the top sirloins will have a bunch more protein because they're lean, and protein is fucking lean tissue. That's what has protein. So it really is just the balance there in the nutrition, but you can't really go wrong. Steaks are so packed with whatever you need to perform, to give you strength, to, make you even fucking calm you down, raise your testosterone, sleep well, do anything. Steaks will do it all for you. And for that reason, steaks are 100% not overrated. Just be careful for falling for the wooden cutting board meme. There's nothing inherently wrong with steak and eggs, or even putting it on a wooden cutting board, but the danger is that if you're one of these kids who just saw it on TikTok one day and doesn't know anything about steaks or about cooking them, then you'll probably get scammed, cook it wrong, choose the wrong cut, and fucking mess yourself over, have your parents angry at you because you just like spent half their mortgage on a fucking ribeye. So take these things into consideration to avoid falling for the meme. If you like the advice in this video, maybe this helped you choose out a nice cut of steak, check the description out. I think there's something in there that you might like. It's fucking paid. It's a product. So if you'd like to support me and also help you because I put in more of this information, more of whatever I think would actually help you out become better at cooking, please check that out in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Peace. Oh wait, I have another intro or outro, which is also like a kind of truism. Remember, we may not have a lot of time in this world, but we have enough. Thank you very much.